Welcome. Blessings. Blessings. Good to be here with you. Here in satsang, we intentionally bring our attention to the full dimensionality of our being, the wholeness of our being as human spiritual beings, the human dynamic, the body, mind, ego story. The blessed human experience, the spiritual dynamic, the formless combination of the one being, the one consciousness that is shared by all, and the localization of that consciousness in individuated soul expressions. Going for a human journey ride in this vehicle of body and mind and ego. And we come together to remember that wholeness. Because for the most part, we don't remember the wholeness. Many people will go an entire lifetime and never bring any awareness to the transcendent dynamic of their spiritual nature that is present in this lifetime. It doesn't go away. The essential nature of our being is the essential nature of our being prior to thought, beyond thought. Beyond the personal self, prior to the personal self. The essential nature of being is ever present. And we come together to remember that. And I was thinking this morning, because I never really know what there is to share, to talk about, to explore until the moment arrives. And here it is. And I was just feeling into where we spend our time consciously. Where do we spend our time? Typically, we spend our time lost in the content of experience, which is the combination of the objective world occurring and then our interpretation of that objective world based on our conditioning and our programming and perhaps our wounding. But what we make of it, that's where we spend most of our time. That's the content of experience, the world happening, relationships happening, conditions happening, situations happening, life happening. And we take that in and we typically just feed it to the database of conditioning and programming, the egoic identity. Remembering that ego is activity of mind, it's not an actual thing. And that activity of mind discerns and interprets and tells a story and a narrative about what is happening. And then we react from that. And then that life responds to our reaction, and then we take that in, and then the personal self, the egoic conditioned identity, then interprets that moment and reacts to that. That's mostly where we're spending our time. And we have the opportunity through our studies and meditations, conscious conversations, with our intentional, my computer just did a weird thing. Okay, there it is. With our intentional pointing of awareness back to itself, to the wholeness of our being, to the true nature of our being, we have the opportunity to spend some time home, in the home of our being, in the unwavering, ever-present, eternal nature of our being, which is present right now, always, but typically veiled by the noise, the narrative, the perspective of the personal self. So where do you spend your time? Because where we spend the most time is what is most familiar to us. It's a place that is, I want to say easier to navigate, but it's actually not always easier to navigate. But any place you spend a lot of time, you become very familiar with it. It becomes second nature. We had a blackout here in Bali a couple of days ago, overnight. And before I got my candles lit, the whole house was completely black. But I was familiar with it. Yeah, I moved more slowly. But I knew where the couch was and where the table was and the plants and the speakers for the stereo. I know where all that is, so I know how to not bump into it, navigate around it. It's familiar to me. But what if it was a place where I had spent very, very little time? It wouldn't be so familiar, so second nature. I'd be bumping into things, perhaps completely hesitant, unable to move. I don't know where anything is. I don't, what's, if I move in that direction, what might I hit? If I move in that direction, what might I encounter? What, I don't know. And it would stall me out. So the invitation is to return to our studies, our conversations, our engagements, our purposeful stopping and interrupting the habitual thinking of mind, the habitual activity of mind, whether it be in a formal meditation or just a moment in our day, to intentionally interrupt that habitual narrative. And remember that there is more than just the narrative, the experience. There's the awareness of the experience. The stillness of our being, the rested peace of our consciousness, within which all the experiences come and go and are born and die, arise and fall. To remember that. There's an essential peace and stillness, an unbothered nature of being. It's actually the most true dynamic of us, because it doesn't come, it doesn't go, it doesn't change. And if we spend time there, a moment here, a moment there, a meditation here, a meditation there, studying, reading, conversing, going for a walk, and just contemplating, wait, what's this whole makeup of my human spiritual experience? And no matter what I'm thinking or feeling, what is aware of that? And what is the nature of this awareness? When we regularly live there, bring our attention there, become familiar with that, it becomes quite well known. It awakens, it enlightens, it illuminates. To the point where it is present, it is known. It is illuminated in the background of all experience. It's always present. And if we were to bring a word to it, we might call that our limited way of knowing it. We might call it peace. It wouldn't call itself peace, pure consciousness, the I am of being wouldn't call itself peace, because that would then be peace in relation to something else. Chaos, disturbance, anxiety. And the oneness doesn't individuate like that. But we, in our human experience, might call this essential nature of our being peace. What if that peace was so known and familiar and allowed and abided, that it was present in the background of every moment of your life? So that every human experience could arise and be present and felt authentically within an unwavering embrace of peace. I invite you to imagine that. A known embrace, a trusted embrace of peace as who you really are, the unwavering, unchanging, undiminished, imperishable nature of your being that cannot be disturbed. Imagine that that is present while you have a frustrating human experience. While you have a difficult human experience. while you feel a very real grief or pain or loss. Imagine that loss, that pain, that grief held with love and peace. So you could feel it and not get so lost in it that you forget the love, that you forget your essential nature of being. This is the invitation. To turn our devotion to this journey of awakening and knowing and abiding the essential nature of being that is shared by all, which we might name as a stillness or a peace or love. Imagine that being present always, not questioned, not manipulated or applied to a moment, just the recognition of its presence. Imagine if you loved your home, if you felt good in your home, you felt like it was a place of peace and refuge and comfort and joy. And then you were out in the world and you encountered a difficult, aggravating situation. And as you were dealing with it, encountering it, reacting to it, experiencing it in the world of form and in our life, what if you paused and were asked by somebody, they said, take a moment. Tell me what it feels like to be in your home. Pause from this aggravation for just a moment and remember what it feels like to be in your home. Because you're so familiar with it, you could probably conjure that feeling of, if you really did it, if you really took the invitation to take a moment and pause and think, wait, what does it feel like to be in my home? Oh, God, that would be so nice. It feels good. It feels safe. It feels stable. It feels lovely, peaceful. And then you were asked, okay, good. Bring that feeling, bring that essential feeling of home to this moment of aggravation, to this moment of difficulty. So that both are present. The experience is happening. But with the absence of home, with the absence of peace, with the absence of love, it's just the pure anxiety and difficulty and challenge and reaction, resistance, and fighting and pushing away and struggle, suffering. But imagine the exact same difficult situation laid upon, if you will, present within the embrace of the remembrance of home. Feeling the strength of being at home, feeling the joy of being at home, feeling the love and the peace, the safety of being at home. And then turn toward the difficulty. And don't budge from the truth, the wholeness, the peace. Of pure consciousness, of who you really are. How would that moment change? Bringing your wholeness to the moment rather than just bringing your conditioned, frightened, panicked, reactive ego experience to the moment? Bringing your wholeness. Still dealing with the situation. Taking action, making choices, speaking truth. Advocating for your desires or your rights or your position. Taking care of yourself. But with the strength of true, unwavering peace behind all of it. We remember the analogies of the sky and the weather. The sky is always in the background of all weather patterns. You can get lost in the weather and completely forget the presence of the peaceful, boundless sky. Or you can be in the weather and deal with the weather and experience the weather knowing that the sky is unwavering, ever present. No matter how bad the storm gets, when it passes, the sky will be there, undamaged. And in the background of a movie is the screen, always, unchanging. And in the background of all of our own mental and emotional projections and experiences and realities and dynamics, in the background of all of that, always, there is I. The unwavering, I am. The unwavering stillness and peace of our essential nature. And imagine if you were to live your life with that truth awakened, known, so familiar that it's just present, shining, not as a blissful state, not as a place that doesn't experience frustration, pain, sadness, grief. But as the pure allowing of all of it. So that you're not just reacting to the world as the egoic identity, you're reacting in responding to the world appropriately, authentically, honestly, never forgetting, never abandoning. The unwavering peace and stillness of being. So, that's the invitation. To remember who you are again and again and again and again and again and again till it becomes so familiar that even if all the lights go out, even if life gets really hard, that you can still navigate it knowing who you really are. Would that not be freedom? So, thoughts, perspectives, questions, insights. There's Holly. Thank you. Lydia's here. Hello, Lydia. Wonderful. I think I've got some of this technology working today. It's still not quite the way I'd like it, but okay. If you're on the Oasis, remember you can jump into the video chat and we can have a conversation. You just click the button that says join the chat, join the call. Otherwise, post your chats. What do you encounter? What do you encounter as you imagine and invite this possibility? The transcendent nature of you that will continue after this body, mind, ego experience ends. The essential nature of you, your wholeness of being. Can be known, can be present, abided. To hold the space for every human experience. So that you don't get so lost in every experience. You participate in it, but with the backing of boundless love and peace and grace. Having the human moment that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be fixed because it would be really nice to, if your car breaks down, you got to fix it. So you deal with that. And maybe it happens while you're on your way to a job interview. And it's really important that you get this job. But something happens. And there you are. Deal with it. Work with it. Take action. But what if you were to do so completely grounded and at rest in the essential nature of your being beyond all thoughts, reactions, conditions, programming, conditioning? To know your essential nature and abide it. And when we forget, we start to recognize the anxiety, the angst, the panic, the suffering. And to ask, wait, what does it feel like to be home? If we've practiced enough, if we've awakened our awareness again and again and again to itself enough, we can ask that question, what does it feel like to be home? And because we've spent enough time there, we know. We can find our true strength that can then allow and welcome and not turn away from let's say, a deep pain that wants to arise because it has not been addressed, it has not been allowed, it has not been held, it has not been loved. And it wants to arise. From this space, it can arise. And what we recognize is we are not in this moment in the pain. The poignant and very real pain is arising within I. I am not in the pain. Oh, the pain is moving through I. Felt, acknowledged, recognized. Explored, learned from, held, allowed. Within the unwavering and imperishable I. Beautiful. I'm curious, Ali, how this is landing for you here, and you, Lydia, as well. And remember, you have the option and through the Oasis to join in with a video call But if you're on YouTube today, you have the opportunity just to share. Where are you in this journey? Where are you in the recognition of your wholeness and having it become familiar and trusted and known? And I'm curious as well for you, Cenk, what arises. And one of the things I appreciate is we were talking about conscious conversations, right? This is the beautiful thing about exploring. Wait, how does this all work together, and how does it fit, and what am I making now?
A lot of relaxation and softening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it wild? Like, I can still, like, I've got a thing with my landlord right now. He's pretty psychotic, and he's really behaving in ways that are not nice, very unkind. So I experience that. Things need to be done. I need to voice my concerns and such. But wow, what a difference to not get so swept up in all the vitriol. And to say, you know what, ultimately, no matter how this turns out, I'm okay. Right?
Yeah, like when the very sense of our existence is not threatened.
Yes, that's it. When the very sense of our existence is not threatened.
Yeah. And nowadays, you know how a lot has been coming up for me, right? It's like an accelerated ride happening inside.
Yeah.
So much. I'm getting very familiar with that place that feels threatened. Because I'm in that. I'm being with it or aware of it or very, very often and very continuously.
Yeah.
And when you shared, that's immediately from what's happening to me. I could sense in you, at an existential, spiritual level of the true identity, nothing got threatened for you about this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my experience is so much very contrasting these days.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt this threatened in my home.
Yes, but you're allowing it though, right?
Well, I'm allowing it, but at the same time, it's not asking me whether or not, like, it is so kind of, what is happening is happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure if I could even turn my back to it at this point.
No, right. No, it's that point, it's that strong,
Yes.
it's got your attention.
It's got my attention.
Right.
It's just here. Like, as if there's an invisible tiger that feels visible to me.
Yeah.
But it's right there, looking at me all the time, no matter what I'm doing, no matter where I go.
Yes.
And it's just no escape.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we can say there's a grace about that. It's so beautiful because finally.
Well, it feels like shit, though.
It feels like shit.
Yeah.
Because I feel like threatened all the time. Even if I look inside and I cannot find the locus or the center of where the thing is threatened, there's still a feeling of getting threatened.
Yes.
Without a center.
What is aware of the feeling? See, this is the beauty, not to minimize it, right?
Yeah.
Not to even take away the edge of it.
Yes.
Because you want to feel that. That is you're witnessing your very real experience.
Yes.
And it wants to be witnessed. It wants to be held. It's like a hurt child coming to a parent, right?
Yeah.
They're like, don't minimize my hurt, my pain.
Yes.
Just hold me in it.
Threatened.
Yeah. So what happens? Is there value for you? And can you just get a little bit of space from it to go, oh, yeah, I still feel it, but it's not the entire experience of me. Is the movie the entire experience? No, there's a screen.
Yeah.
You don't like, even if it's a really scary movie, right?
Yes, this feeling threatened has a very somatic part where it's usually upper body, tight throat, mind kind of all over the place, that kind of undertones.
Yeah.
But let's say I put my attention on different parts of my body, or in a space like this where it's a guided health space where everything softens. Yeah, suddenly there's a bigger spaciousness in which the feeling of threatened happens.
Perfect. I love that. There's a bigger spaciousness within which the feeling of threatened happens. And what we're inviting today is to, and we're all at different places in our journey along the way. The invitation is to keep getting more and more and more familiar with that spaciousness.
Yeah.
That's the invitation. Get more familiar with that spaciousness so that ultimately what starts to happen is you can just feel even this old feeling of threat. There it is. The feeling very much is steeped in a sense of threat or fear or unworthiness or uncertainty, whatever it is. But imagine that spaciousness is so known and illuminated and present that even within this grip of the threat, there's a knowing of, I'm okay. And we practice it. We just practice it little by little. I may have shared this story before, but many, many years ago, I was probably about 5-6 years in my studies and practice and devotion. I was in 5-6 years in my devotion of abiding and knowing true nature. And I remember having a full day of just resting in this grace. And that evening I took a bath and I watched one of my teachers, and it just deepened even more. And then I sat in meditation before going to bed, and it just felt like I'm free. I'm free. I know truly. I don't just know it. I abide, I accept, I know, I am. I am. The unwavering I am, within which every experience comes and goes. And then I went to sleep. And I woke up the next morning. I didn't wake up in peace and then slowly this came on. I woke up in terror. I woke up with every deep, dark, self-deprecating doubt and fear just screaming at me. Who do you think you are? Thinking your divinity, thinking your grace, thinking your peace. No, you are a worthless piece of shit, and you always will be. And you're just pretending to be something else because it feels better. But you cannot escape the reality that you always have been and always will be unacceptable. I mean, it was just like, it was strong. It was even saying, the only reason that you have friends is not because they believe in your goodness or your worth or your value, is because they see how messed up you are and how deluded you are. And they all feel so sorry for you that they're friends of yours because of pity.
Like the armies of Mara, right? Before Buddha gets enlightened.
Yeah. They attack, right. So, but then what I realized is it wasn't an attack. So what was happening was, I felt this and I was freaked out. I was like, wait, wait, what happened? And the way I describe it is I spent the next day or maybe a couple of days feeling like I was in a raging river that wanted to just sweep me downstream, crash me against the rocks, and throw me over the falls. And I was hanging on with a pinky hold to some semblance of faith that there's a truth that and I couldn't even articulate it or find it or do anything. All I could do was hold on. That was the only thing I knew was don't let go, hold on. Don't get swept away, hold on. And I just did. I felt like I was pinky hold on a twig on the side of the river. I hope it holds. I hope it holds. I hope it holds. And let me hold on. My screen froze here. There we go. And it held. I didn't get swept away. And what happened was I came out the other side, and as I journaled and reflected, contemplated, I realized what had happened was I had reached such a state of truth, of unwavering, boundless, undiminished essence of being, that my oldest and deepest and most painful fears came to light. And they said, we have not presented ourselves at this depth before because you couldn't handle it. And you would have run away, and you would have numbed yourself and distracted. And what we need is to be heard and to be felt and to be allowed and to be loved. And you're finally at a place where you can do that. So it's actually kind of a good news often that we'll be visited by our deepest and darkest wounds only because we're doing our work. And it was almost like they were lining up, they were queuing up and almost pushing each other out of the way, all these deep wounds, going, no, me next, yay! There's finally love available. And they were just queuing up to be felt.
Yeah. And when I remember that, okay, my true nature is love, in that moment, that invoking that even really helps.
Yeah.
Like, it brings a softening.
Yes.
Energetically, emotionally, physically even. Otherwise, there's only tension, contraction, fear.
Yeah. Remember who you really are and bring that to the moment. I don't say to my difficult landlord, okay, oh well. Ultimately, I might have to. I might go, look, the Buddhists have a wonderful phrase that says, if there's something that you can do, then there's no sense worrying about it. Do that thing. If you know there's something to be done, then do that thing. Don't worry about it. And if there's nothing that can be done, if I hit a place where I realize there's nothing more I can do, then stop worrying about it. Be at peace with that.
Yeah.
Be at peace with everything. The frustration, the difficulty, the outcome, the situation, even if it's still ongoing, be at peace. How else are we going to meet our wounds and grow and meet our wounds and love them if we're not rested as the pure love of the shared love, the one being, the oneness of our shared being, the essential nature of consciousness and awareness, to rest in that. That's where we can really do our work.
Yeah.
I used psychedelics often in my older life as, journeys of healing and encountering what needed to be encountered. And it used to scare the hell out of me. Like, oh, I don't want to open this up. I don't want to face. I know there's a lot of fear. I know there's a lot of doubt. I know there's a lot of hurt. I know there's a lot of wounding. And I don't want to take this psychedelic that's going to allow that to really be present. Well, I can't deny it or resist it or push it away any longer. It's going to arise. And when I started to, through my practice and the studies of non-duality and my meditations of recognizing who I really am, it became easier to say, all right, bring it on. Because I'm never going to forget who I really am.
Yeah, that internal affirmation, like, come what may, and I'm here for all of it.
I am here for all of it.
Yeah.
Who's the I? Right? Beyond the personal self. I am.
Yeah, the timeless awareness.
Timeless awareness. Boundless awareness. The oneness.
Yeah.
Of being.
Unchanging. There in every state.
I am that. Truly, I am. Bring it on. That's freedom. Yeah.
And if something feels threatened, then it will until it doesn't, until it dissolves.
Yeah. It'll feel threatening.
Yeah. There's really a feeling of coming close to dying. There's a feeling of, a finality, a death.
Yeah.
Not for the timeless awareness, but.
So if you're at rest as the timeless awareness, can you allow all of that? That's the remembrance. That's the invitation. That's the freedom, is to remember truth amidst the entire human experience. Not denying the human experience, not shaming it, not running away. Somebody asked me recently, are you happy? No, not always. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm exhilarated, I'm excited. All of these things happen. But what I am that doesn't change is I am at peace. I am rested as the peace that I am. I am rested in the peace of I am. Different ways to voice it. That is true. That is unwavering. It's the only thing I know to be consistently true or consistently present. Because the happiness is true, and the grief is true, and the pain is true, and all that's part of the human reality. But the only consistent thing I know is peace.
You know, the whole illusory sense of self or the separate sense of self, my deepest feeling is that that's all a defense against life. Kind of, it's not grounded in anything. It's not a true defense, but it's through imagination, through defense mechanisms. It's like somehow at some place, maybe very early in childhood, our very survival at a creature level is so threatened.
Sure.
That then comes this solution to that. And not a real solution. It's its own hell, of course, but out of a fear of feeling threatened, an imaginary thing gets created.
Yes.
So with this, I can, also at a felt level, I can make sense that, okay, when the imaginary life is ending or is seen through, then the fear that gave rise to it in the first place has to come to the surface to finally be seen for what it is. Because the whole illusory thing is fueled by this fear of death.
By the
survival fear.
It is said that the illusion of separation is the cause of all suffering.
Yes.
There it is. And a baby has no ability to conceptualize its conscious truth. It only feels itself as a individual physical thing. That's the only thing it knows.
Yeah.
So, of course, its entire ego construct is based on a limited truth, a limited sense of self. It doesn't know its eternal nature.
Yes.
All it knows is vulnerability.
Vulnerability, like a primary contraction when faced with life at that level of creature.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if it's not taught as we grow older and are able to now be cognitive, to be able to actually explore reality, if we're not being taught truth, but we call it truth, to access to know our essential nature, then we stay in that illusion. We just stay in it.
Yes.
And this is what awakening is about. Awakening is awakening from the illusion of separation. And a baby can't do that.
And what feels in my experience of feeling threatened is actually finally now as the adult, right, as an adult facing that which as a baby there was no way of facing.
No way.
And because there was no way of facing, this defense mechanism came as an imaginary or whatever, the whole separation thing.
And one of the ways, it's very insidious. A baby and a toddler does not want to think or know that the world is a dangerous and difficult and often hurtful place. So when it encounters, let's say, a parent that is not loving, right? A toddler doesn't want to feel like, oh shit, I'm coming into this world where there's a lot of cruelty and ignorance and selfishness and hurt and not people are not loving. I don't want to think that. So if I'm not being loved in this moment by a parent, it's my fault. It's easier to take that on myself and imagine I'm the one that's broken than to imagine that is all broken.
Because that would too big of a truth to be able to.
I don't
face.
Exactly, because I'm a toddler, and how would I face a world like that? I don't have the means, the wherewithal, the strength, the knowledge, the capacity to encounter a world that steeped in illusion and difficulty and pain and ignorance. Therefore, I think I can manage some of this. So I'll internalize that as my fault, and I'll work on that.
And in that illusion, right?
Yeah.
I also get to kind of stay in control because then, or maybe if only I can become better.
I can fix it. This I can fix.
Yeah, exactly.
This I can fix, but that's too big.
Yeah.
So I can fix this. And then in the awakening, we recognize that there's nothing that needs to be fixed in the awakened truth. But in the awakened truth, we can turn back and work on the wiring and the thinking and the reactive experience. We can work on that from a place of truth rather than from the place of saying, and until that is all fixed, I'm screwed.
The whole untruth that our lives are based is a reaction to a primal encounter with life and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complete reaction and a confused reaction that's delusional.
To a primal encounter with life.
With life and the vulnerability of it.
And the primal nature of our being is the thinnest sliver of who we really are. It does not allow for or consider our spiritual nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what we do. We have these conversations. It's important to have these conversations. Okay. Lydia here says, just learning about being in the peace during stressing meetings and loving it. Thank you. Yes, Lydia. And Lydia, the opportunity here and what we're pointing to today is to practice the knowing of your grace. Grace just means truth. Practice the knowing of your grace when you're not in the stressful situations so that it can become so known that then when you do encounter the stressful situations, you have a home, a known home to return to rest in as the stressful situation is unfolding. This is the analogy of getting so familiar with your home while the lights are on, so that when the lights go out, when it gets really dark and difficult, that you know where the furniture is, you know where you might hit your shins, you know where how not to trip over things. But if you didn't study the home and know the home in the light of day, then when the lights went out, you'd be in trouble. So we want to study, enlighten our truth, come to rest as the stillness of being. And as a student of the Beyond the Noise course, this is what the course is all about. How to awaken that, how to come to rest as that, how to know that, how to abide that truth, how to see who you're not for the illusion that it is, for the conditioning that it is, and how to abide and recognize and allow and embody the truth of your being. To do that in the peace and comfort and safety of your practices and your meditations and your home and your studies and taking a bath and going for a walk in nature, to be doing all of that, reviewing, thinking about, feeling into, wait a minute, what's really happening? What are the different layers of life? The thing happening, my egoic interpretation of it, my reaction, my conditioning, and the awareness of all of that. Oh, I always forget the awareness. And I'm usually just in the reactive database response to life. Remembering the awareness, remembering the awareness, remembering the awareness, practicing that in the comfort and safety and peace of your meditations and your studies and your conversations and satsang. So then when life presents a difficult condition or situation, we can return to home. We can be at home even while the situation arises. And that takes time and patience and practice. But it's worth it because it's freedom. It's freedom. Beautiful. It's good to have you on the journey, Lydia. Yeah. Jump back over here. See if there's any more chats here. Yeah, Robert here again saying more and more remaining as peace in the face of life. I love that, more and more, right? More. I remember I was working with a teacher once, and I kind of arrived, if you will, at this place of deep peace. And I said, I think I've got it. I think I'm there. Like everything we've been working toward, right? Everything, like, finally, I'm there. We're done, right? I'm done, right? And my teacher said, we talked about the stillness and the peace. He said, yeah, you are there. It was good. Now we can begin. And then I realized that stillness isn't the destination. It's the foundation from which the exploration, the expansion, the evolution of our being, the recognition of really who we are, finding that, being able to grok this much of it, and then remaining in that stillness, and then recognizing more, and then remaining in the stillness and recognizing more. Stillness isn't the destination. Peace isn't the destination. It's the foundation. To be at rest in our stillness, in peace, allows untold experiences and wisdom and knowings and encounters and evolution. Because we're talking about knowing ourselves as a boundless consciousness of being. Like, really, you think that's got a perimeter? That's got a limited capacity? Now, we're always going to be in this human experience. We do have a limited way of perceiving. We tend to perceive through sight, smell, touch, sound, all the perceptions. So can we ever really know through this limited capacity the true boundless nature of oneness? No. But we can know it to the degree that we can know it in this capacity. And most of us are not even touching that. Yeah.
And what's happening right now to me is that in this freedom, it's so massive, right? And it's so completely free in every direction. Every possibility is within it.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm suffering and I remember that or invoke or realize, it's like, oh, okay, then the opposite of suffering is possible and I can breathe into it. It's so beautiful. But this is so free that every possible scenario exists within it.
Okay, so let's play with language, because it's valuable and fun. When I am suffering, if we come from the perspective of the true I am, when I am is experiencing my personal self-suffering. Does that resonate? Do you hear that? Do you hear that difference? When I am is simply holding space for the movement of suffering on behalf of the personal self. So suffering on behalf of the personal self is moving through I am, and is I am suffering.
I am is free from suffering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Witnessing, holding space for the movement of suffering that can be mitigated by remembering the I am. It's like getting so lost in the movie that you forget that it's just a movie, and you're so in it that you are completely suffering. And like, imagine watching a really gripping or painful or difficult movie and never leaving the theater, being so in it that that's all there is.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I wish this movie would change because it's so good. It's so bad. It's such a bad movie. And I just, when will it ever stop? And you realize, you could just get up and walk out of the theater.
And then hearing about enlightenment in the movie and thinking that the movie might become a better movie if I got that.
Can I just play the Enlightenment movie, please? Can I play the Enlightenment movie? Well, sure, briefly for, the next 5 minutes, but then you're going to forget. Now you're going to be in the suffering movie again. And then you're going to be in the I'm enlightened movie again. And
as we talk, I'm more inside the free state. It's coming more and more. And what I'm noticing is through the humanity, there's a real grief comes because life is so free, right? Life is so free. Everything that I want also as Jane. In the freedom, there is the freedom of none of that happening as well. Because that's also a possibility in infinite freedom of life. That none of my preferences will ever occur. None of the things that I wish might even happen. Well, I might be dead in another 5 days from now. That possibility is also there because it's so infinitely free. And there's a sadness that comes with the recognition of how free life actually is. So beyond anything I might wish for myself or other people. It's almost like there's a dying into even to any wish or desire.
Yeah. And what's dying? Just the identification with the personal.
A kind of hopefulness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of hopefulness is dying.
I am. Unconditional, loving awareness. Like, if we want to put names to it to help us grok it, unconditional, loving awareness of this moment, of this moment, of this moment, of all moments, of all, just here, right now. Unconditional, loving awareness of here, right now.
Like, it's almost as saying, don't bring your expectations into this. That's what it's saying to me.
Yeah.
Don't bring all the things that you think you might get by freedom.
You want to play with imagination, manifestation, hope, desire. Awesome. Right? It's part of how we shape life and we move toward these. It's the attachment. This is the oldest teaching there is, right? Yeah. It's not having the desire that's the problem, because we're having a human life. And I want good food, and I want health, and I want nice music and good friends, and I want all these things. But they may happen, they may not. They may happen in different degrees. So it's the non-attachment. That's the freedom. And why does the pure stillness, the already fulfilled wholeness of being, doesn't need for it to turn out any of these ways? It's not attached to any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't bring your future into this. That's what it's saying. Leave, like, you can come without that. Come without that. All the ways that you expect life to be, and this and that, impositions.
Right. So let's play with that. Yeah. And there's great validity in that, and that's a big part of the teaching, right? Is put down the future, put down the past, and just be present. Because the now is not a space of time. Because if it is, and there's the past and the now and the future, well, how long is that now? Is it a millisecond, a full second, 5 seconds? Sandwiched between? No, there is no past, future, and now. It's all now.
And at the level of the heart, I'm noticing it as grief. Grieving of every possible scenario about whatever I've ever imagined for my future.
So we could say you can save yourself grief and suffering by not be present now, and don't try to create a future. Personally, I'm working on my future quite a bit. I'm just not attached to it.
I think this is different. Yeah, this is the attachment.
The attachment. I'm not attached to it turning out in a particular way. I'm playing with it. That's the capacity we have as imaginary beings. We have the capacity to imagine. That's stunning. To take consciousness itself and use our capacity to imagine and shape it into an experience, into a reality, into a manifestation. That's stunning. And to be at peace now. That's freedom, playfulness. And we have a dharma, right? There's a dharma as well, that I'm on a path. My soul is here for a journey. So the personal self might want to push an agenda this way, and my dharma might be going that way. So if I'm present in the moment, I can listen and adjust and be with and allow and pivot and move along a dharmic path, a soulful inclination. And not have the personal agenda fight or resist. No, this is not going the way I want, because, from the ego perspective, it's usually trying to create a future where it is validated, where it belongs, where it is accepted, where it's loved. So it's got an agenda just based on fulfilling its sense of unfulfillment.
Always looking for comfort, pleasure, this and that.
Yeah. But just being present and listening deeply, we can listen to our own soul's calling and say, yes, move in this direction. This is your path. This is your dharmic path. I've never been married. I don't have kids, right? That's been my dharma. So to fight that, and I would like to be in relationship with somebody. That may come, it may not. I'm going to be at peace no matter what.
Exactly. To be at peace with both of those. Yeah. To be unfettered to a certain outcome.
Right, because all I know is now I'm not, and I'm at peace. And now I'm not, and I'm at peace. And now I may be, and I'm at peace. It's just whatever is happening now, I'm at peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. So where do we spend time? Do we spend time getting familiar with home? The home that is us, that is always present. It's never left behind. It can't be, it's who we are. Getting so familiar with who we truly are. That we can have the full range of the human experience and not get so lost in the content of experience that we forget the stillness of being, the peace of being. Beautiful. Thank you, my friends. Thank you, Lydia and Ali and Robert. Looks like Stacy was here with us today. Beautiful. Thank you, Cenk. What a journey, what a blessing to attentively bring ourselves to the inquiry, who am I really? What is the full dimensionality of this human spiritual being that I am? I'll leave you with this quote that I heard once from, I think it was a minister at a Unitarian church. It was a guest minister. And I remember showing up at church that Sunday and feeling disappointed that the minister I really liked wasn't there. It was like, oh, who's this guest minister? And she ended up saying something that just stuck with me and deeply changed my life. And she said, when we are disconnected from our divinity, we will feel not enough. When we forget our truth, when we forget our grace, when we get so lost in the content of experience, the situation, and then my conditioned thinking reaction to it based on my conditioning and programming, and then the experience, and then my thinking, and then the experience, and then my thinking. None of that allows for my divinity, my wholeness of being, my grace of being, my essential, eternal, unwavering peace of being isn't part of any of that. I mean, it's there, but I'm so lost in the noise of my own thinking and reacting and my believing and deciphering and interpreting. So lost in all of that there's the complete forgetting of the true sense of self, the true self. So when we're disconnected from our divinity, we will feel not enough. So if we're feeling not enough, probably a good time to stop and reconnect to home. Reconnect to the essential, unwavering, unconditional love of being. All right, blessings, friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Be well.